Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Jamin's Daily. I'm going to talk to you about Friday the 13th because not too long ago it was January the 13th and it was a Friday the 13th. And I watched a Friday the 13th movie with Jason Voorhees. And I wanted to talk to you about that because, you know, I didn't want to do a movie review, so I watched Jason Lives, which is Friday the 13th Part 6, which is my favorite one, which is one of the more critically better reviewed. It's a great movie. And I thought about, well, maybe I could do a review, talk about it a little bit, but then the more interesting and what I'm more excited to talk about, besides this gigantic pimple that I got right here, folks, it's really messing up my vibe on this podcast. But, I wanted to talk about Jason Voorhees and Friday the 13th and me growing up because I had a recurring nightmare of Jason chasing me for years, from the age of probably 12 until about 17. I was dreaming about this guy, having nightmares. He's chasing me. It was, I guess, scary to a degree. I was doing a paper route at 17, 18, 19 years old and had to walk down hallways that were dark to deliver paper at these condos. And my heart would be racing because I would be thinking about Jason or some slasher gonna gut me. True story. But in Jason Part 6 is a great movie for a number of reasons. One, it has all the slasher elements. But in addition, there's some multiple comedic relief that isn't too cheesy, comes off as funny, that even the critics give credit to and talk of. There's also some other elements that they were saying here that they give credit because one here says it was one of the first in the series to receive a positive reception from critics, and says it had self-referential humor and numerous instances of breaking the fourth wall. And it's considered a fan favorite in the series, and it made a lot of money. Here's the thing: it grossed almost $20 million on a $3 million budget. You know what I'm saying? Nowadays, these Marvel movies will have like a $500 million budget. They got to make $500, $600, $700 million just to break even, to get ahead. Because that's not even talking about marketing expenses and stuff. Come on now. So the great thing about also Jason Lives Part 6 is the beginning, because it starts off just like all horror movies when you know better, and yet Tommy Jarvis, who's the protagonist, shows up to a cemetery at night when it's raining to finish the job. Like, why couldn't he go during the day? If you're dead and buried, you're there during the day. Why you gotta go at night? I guess because they're doing something illegal. I guess you couldn't go during the day. They gotta go at night to get away with it. But still, it seems like way more dangerous. And sure enough, they go. He's supposed to be making sure that Jason is dead, and yet he helps bring him back to life by mistake. And the thing about it is, when the movie is over and he actually ends up killing him, yeah, great, he killed him. But the fact of the matter is, he's the one who caused the problem to begin with. Like, there's a lot of people dead because this Tommy Jarvis wanted to try to kill Jason or make sure he was dead. And yet, the only thing he did was just bring him back to life, and now a bunch of people are dead. So it's kind of his fault. But, nobody really talks about that. But in the movie, there is another situation in which there is a sheriff who's in town. And it's the cliched where he's got a daughter who's in the movie, and she has a big crush on Tommy. So you have this little back and forth between Tommy Jarvis, the local sheriff, and his daughter. And it creates a little bit of a love interest, humor, keeps the plot going. It's if you see the movie, you know what I'm talking about. One of the interesting elements and new things on this part 6, and I was astonished by this. I did not know this was the case, but it took until Jason part 6, Friday the 13th part 6. Prior to that, Jason Voorhees and his storyline and path had kind of been set, recreated, reimagined slightly. But Jason Voorhees, I think like perhaps Michael Myers, the fact that he was a real person. Okay? And it wasn't until part 6 where it was the first one where they explicitly made Jason supernatural. He was a supernatural force for the first time in the series. So in this version, Jason was an undead and a more powerful superhuman. And this would end up becoming the standard depiction of him for the rest of all the new movies that they made after that. One of the more memorable and cooler things about Jason and his superhuman abilities is the fact that you never see him running. He doesn't run. He just walks fast. But he always is able to catch people who are running frantically. And yet he's always at the next corner, or they're running for a long time, they trip and fall, and seconds later, even though he's walking, boom, he's already there and caught up. And that's because in this movie was the first time they decided to give him superhuman abilities. Now, one of the funnier parts of the movie, again with comedic relief, is actually a scene during the day where Jason he's in the woods, and he stumbles upon a corporate outing, a corporate team building exercise perhaps. They're playing capture the flag paintball. And Jason shows up, starts killing some of the folks. But there's this joking that's going on amongst the participants during the horror movie. And then Jason comes and kills them. But that's one of the examples of mixing it in, of, hey, here's a slasher serious movie, but then we can make these funny jokes. Which they did, and it was good. There's a number of them throughout the movie, which makes it enjoyable. Lastly, but not least, folks, there was, we look at the cast, which I'm not going to put up here. Maybe we're going to follow. Maybe we'll do more in-depth. I really just wanted to touch on this and the fact that I just got kind of rediscovered Friday the 13th because it was Friday the 13th. Had a friend over. We watched some movies and we watched this. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a podcast on Friday the 13th. Remind the folks at home that it was one of my favorites. And I can remember being a kid, being almost 40. I can remember in the late 90s, in the early mid-90s, when I was 10, 12, 13 years old, when I was at that age, I would be watching these 80s horror movies that were done in the 80s, like Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street, these movies. And so stay tuned because I'm going to do some movie reviews on some of the earlier ones. There's like 10 Friday the 13th movies. I even seen the Jason in Space, which is pretty cool. I like that one, actually. I think the next one we're going to do is Freddy versus Jason because I recently watched Nightmare on Elm Street. And we've done some movie reviews in the past. So I think we're going to do some horror movie reviews sticking with Freddy and Jason. Jason and Freddy. Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. So the next one we're going to do perhaps will be the original Nightmare on Elm Street. I've been buying these on Apple TV. So what happened was I don't have HBO Max anymore. And so some of the streamings that these movies are on, I don't have anymore. So I have to actually buy it. But it's been worth it because you buy, I think this Jason movie was like $5. So I just bought it. Now I can play it. So I think that's what I'm going to do. All the horror movies that I review, we're going to buy and own so I can watch them over and over again, be really invested, and then we'll come to you with the review Here's just a quick overview of Jamin's Daily's coverage of the Friday the 13th movie series. Starting with a quick little intro and introduction into Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Highly recommend it, folks. Give it a watch, but before you do that, make sure you like and share, subscribe. If you like this movie, there's something in particular that comes to mind, share, comment, tell me what you like. We can maybe talk about it. We can discuss it. If you want me to review a particular Jason's movie, Friday the 13th movie, because I don't think I'm going to do them in order, folks. I'm going to just do different ones. We'll see how we go. I think I'm going to do Jason in Space next, but it could be Freddy versus Jason. I don't know. You got to stay tuned. Stick with me because the best is yet to come.